Hi and welcome to Budget Model Railways. And I'm finally getting around to what I've been threatening to do for a long while, which is American railroads, in this case in N. I'm going to talk a little bit about where some of the ideas have come from and about what I've acquired, so stay with us. So this actually goes right back to the beginning of when we did model railways 10 years ago or more. And I bought one of these when I thought I was going to deal with N and then went off done other ones. I believe it's an RS2 or an RS3. It's been dropped and broken, but it runs really well. It needs a repair job. So that's sat in a box for a long while. And over the years, reading things, particularly in Continental Modeler, also Train magazine I can occasionally get, and they do, I think it's April or March, they do a short lines, and it's short lines I'm interested in. So I'm not interested in the great long trains. I'm really fascinated by their short lines, privately owned little commercial routes, primarily freight. And what it's got going this time, and I'm going to do a couple of shout outs, is a guy called Eric Williams. He does some most fantastic photography from American railroads on Instagram. And he did a series on the Arcade and Attica, which is just a fabulous little short line. But what got me going is they also run passenger trains. Yeah, so they also run heritage passenger trains. So it's a commercial railway. It runs a heritage diesel, but it pulls modern commercial traffic, but it runs old coaches at the weekends. And I happen to have, which I got cheap, some Arnold coaches. So that's really what got me going, was here's a railroad that I could copy. I can run some freight, I can run some passengers on a short line. The Pico guide I've had for quite a few years. They're really good, these Pico guides. They do them on all sorts of things, N gauge, O gauge, French railways, Dutch railways. Very, very much well worth buying. Because they give a really good introduction to anything. So I've got loads of research material because I've got several years of back numbers of Continental Modeler that's got quite a lot of US, although not much short line. And I do a lot of research on short line. So I then had this locomotive, which I believe is a GP40, very kindly given to us by Mark from the US. It's a really nice run, or it is once I gave it a bit of oiling, 3-in-1, people know me, but it works fine on these. And a good run, and it's actually a really nice runner. Its cab ribs missing, and just like the RS, it needs some couplings sorted. So I didn't really have to buy locos. So I was at the Tunbridge show at the weekend. Good show, guys, if you're watching. Really enjoyed it. And one of the traders there, I managed to pick up some wagons for about £4, £4.50 each. That was only a couple of quid because it's missing a coupling. So I've got a couple of cabooses. I've got 4 wagons there, something like that. I am using Arnold couplings. I know people can jump up and down and say I should be using all sorts of various KD and things like that. But I get on with the Arnold. I'm used to them and I'm quite happy. So I've got coaches to run the heritage passenger trains. I've got a couple of diesels and I've got some box wagons. And then when I was at, I think it was the N-Gauge show at Worthing Way, I picked that up for, I think it was about £4. It's a nice little depot, what we would call a station, but I believe Americans call them a depot, or depot, I'm sure. So obviously I've got a lot to learn. I don't know a lot about American railways, but I know enough, I think, to make a really nice little short line running some commercial freight, and it's primarily going to be shunting, or what the Americans call switching. But I'm not rushing into it. Normally I'd go and design a track plan, slap a load of track down and rush off. And I want to take a bit of time. This has got some really good track plans in it. And I want to take a bit of time to research my track plans, decide what I want to do, what kind of switching layout I want to do. I don't want to do the classic urban one, which is very, very common. I know it's easy, but I'm quite taken with some of the more rural short lines. Just a team siding. Apparently we would call it like a general purpose goods siding. They're called team sidings because they used to have a team of horses taking things away from the railway. So I can just have a team siding and a bit of a warehouse and a depot. So that's probably where I'm going to go. I can't rush with railways at the moment. We've got a load of building work coming. I've got to finish my Japanese layout to exhibit, and I won't then have a lot of space or possibly time. But this is something I want to do. I wanted to spend a little bit of time, unusually for me, not rushing off and building it, but getting it right. I've got to come up with a colour scheme for the locos apart from anything else. I'm going to call it the Ringwood and Albion Railroad, because the two roads I've lived in have both got Ringwood or Albion in the name. So that's going to give me the name. I think it's got a good ring. So this is the beginning of the Ringwood and Albion Railroad. So those of you that stick with us, in a few years' time, you'll be able to say you were in at the beginning and saw the first video. So there we go. Not a lot of detail, but hopefully it's going to get people interested, especially some of our American subscribers. If you've got any help or advice, happy to receive it, particularly ideas on where to look for short lines. But I have made a good little start, and in the scheme of budget, very cheap. All of that second hand, all very cheap, and that's the way it's going to continue as always for us. So stick with us. Hopefully a project that will come to fruition at some point.